Live. Going live. This hangout is on live. Is live. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeremy Johnson, and this is Brew You, episode 39. With me, as always, is my lovely co-host, Justin Leveque.
What is going on, Webinites? Is that weird?
Everything is
I'm
going
trying
on.
something new. That was all right.
That didn't work.
Hello, viewers. Man,
Yes.
show here.
Nice. Okay, so if you have never joined us before, basically Justin and I review a couple new beers, or I should say alcoholic beverages. Don't want to get too niche there. And we rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. And and then we talk about things like movies and whatnot. So we'll get going right into it. Today I am reviewing The Dude's Rug by Bee Nectar Meadery. This is actually a hard cider with tea and chai spices added. It's 5.5 ABV. I'm looking forward to it.
You know, I do love their label art. Every bottle they have is pretty fantastic. They just do such great detail. I mean, look at that. It's perfect, really.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's I'm sure everybody knows that this is based on Lebowski, the Big Lebowski.
Well, it ties the bottle together, is what it does.
It does. It
ties the bottle together.
It's a nice bowling theme, and I'm really looking forward to trying it.
I think Woo needs to be in the background, though. Woo.
Woo.
I'm doing Loser by Elysian. It's just an American Pale Ale at 7%. They just re-released this in May, so it's an updated version of their go-to that was back in, I think, 2006 or something. So
very cool.
We'll see.
All right. Well, I thought I'd spend a little bit of time just looking at the. We don't spend enough time with the labels and whatnot, but there's a little story on here. So I just wanted to read that real quick and sort of I've never really looked at the bottle, so we're both discovering it for the same time. I really like Bee Cider, or Bee Nectar rather. They're out of Ferndale, Michigan. They do some of the specialty meads and ciders like Necromangacon, which is one of my favorites. They also did an IPA infused or IPA mead, which was really fun, called Evil Genius. So they make some really interesting experimental beer meads and ciders, I should say. And on the side panel here it says, okay, so you're a cider, I'm a cider, that's terrific. But this is not just any cider, this is the Dude's Rug. For a spiced chai cider, it really chaied the room together.
Ooh, clever.
Amateurs could not pull off the perfect blend of black tea with cardamom, cloves, cinnamon, and ginger. They'd be out of their element. So if you want to be an achiever, drink this cider and abide. Nobody messes with the bee.
I do want to be an achiever. I'm kind of jealous now that I can't be an achiever.
That's right. So any backstory on yours?
Nothing terribly exciting. Corporate beer still sucks, which I like.
Which is true.
Celebrating over 25 years of celebrating sub-pop records with beer. Specifically this beer, brewed with pale Munich, crystal, and Carahel malts, bittered with Sriracha Ace, and finished with crystal hops.
So is there some sort of tie-in with Beck's Loser?
I'm not sure. I'm going to have to look into that.
Because it didn't say something about a record or music?
Yeah, Sub Pop Records, but I don't think Beck is part of Sub Pop Records off the top of my head. You know, that is my generation, but...
Is it past your generation?
The past is my generation. Every generation is my generation. Because I'm without time.
You are timeless.
I am timeless.
Perennial.
I'm going to be even more timeless on Tuesday.
What's Tuesday? Oh, that's right. It's
my birthday.
Woohoo! Birthday!
The big... No, I was going to say 3-0, but it's not there yet.
Almost? Youngin?
Almost.
All right, let's pop this puppy open. I'm using my handy-dandy Brew You.
I'm going to make you all jealous with my super new one. I call it the Can Opener 3000. It has everything.
It can open cans. It can open bottles.
It can make really loud noises when you bang it on the counter. Glug, glug, glug,
Whee!
glug, glug,
Yeah,
glug,
no
glug,
kidding.
glug. This
And
has to be
you,
the best part of a beer's life, being poured out.
absolutely.
It's like, oh, look at me, I'm being poured.
Oh, I can almost get it all in there, but not quite.
See, got a fairly thick, lacy head, about 2 fingers. It's hard to tell the light in here, but it's kind of like a dark copper,
Hmm.
very cloudy. It's a lot lighter than what it looks like on the camera, but
Nice. It's pretty. Looks like a real decent lager.
I agree.
Mine's absolutely no head, obviously, which is what you kind of expect. Very golden. It looks a little more red on camera than it is in real life. It's a little bit more amber. Um, no, I don't see any carbonation there at all. It's pretty flat. A little bit in the middle there. I see now, but not much at all. Very still surface on top. So
Yeah, it's a beautiful looking cider.
yeah, I mean it is for sure.
And when you put it up to the camera, you can see your head, and it does this weird, like, it's actually pretty creepy.
Hello, hello, Quaid. What you getting on the nose there, buddy?
Uh,
The
I'm getting
nose
beer on
nose.
my nose per the norm. That's what happens when you have a nose like mine. Very sugary, kind of bready, a little bit of malt, but pretty plain. It's not overly powerful in any direction.
I'm getting full on cardamom for sure. Huge. Just smells like one of those Christmas oranges where they put all the cloves in it. So big time clove, big time cardamom.
Sounds good.
Not getting much in the way of fruit, although it smells like a mulled cider, but
Oh,
just cold, not hot.
hmm.
Cinnamon. It smells like dessert.
Probably is
Or
more dessert. Or is that supposed to be drank at a lower temperature? You think,
I don't think
or was it a
so.
warmer temperature?
I wouldn't think it would be, but there's nothing on there that says one way or another, and
Mm.
I think with something that's spiced so heavily like this, that drinking it colder might help make it more palatable
That's very possible.
because you don't want it to be all warm and sticky and all these spices everywhere. It's got a little bit of a root beer smell to it too.
Yeah, that's a little more. I'm getting off the nose.
All right, well let's dig into it. Cheers.
Cheers, sir. It's been too long.
Absolutely. Hmm. Well, um, very tart green apple, which is actually pretty nice considering that there's full-on spice. Cinnamon comes across really heavy. Um, it sort of tastes, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but it sort of tastes like the cinnamon apples you might get in a TV dinner.
I love those.
Not in a bad way.
I actually buy TV dinners just for those apples, and I throw the rest away. It's actually my diet.
Yeah, who needs Salisbury steak anyways, right?
It's not really steak they put in those anyways, so. Hmm. It's very it's very syrupy, very malty, actually. Um, a little bit of a citrus flavor, but not lots. It kind of tastes spiced, a little bitter. Um, but the malt is actually kind of overwhelming. Um, hmm. Give me a second. Let it. I might have taken it out too late.
No, it's okay. I'm getting a little bit of a citrus bite to it too, which is kind of nice. That helps offset. So there's that sort of sweet sour kind of thing going on, and with the sort of chai and the tea uh, characteristic, you can see kind of like a White Russian thing going on. I think that's maybe what they were kind of going for. Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's not as silky smooth as it's a little bit more complicated than that, but it's pretty nice.
What format does that come in? 22?
No, this is 500 milliliters, so it's not a big bottle. It's just it's about a liter, right? Isn't that about right? Or is that 500 milliliters? Is I guess it would say liter if it was a liter. I guess you could say I'll say I'll do 500 milliliters, 2 ounces. Thank you, Google.
Is that a new release?
Is
Because I've not seen.
it's a little almost 17 ounces, and this is their standard. Bee Nectar does these bottles exclusively. I don't know why they choose this particular shape and size, but um, it is sort of an odd thing. Maybe they're trying to keep the metric system. I don't know. Keep it alive in the U.S.
The hell with the metric system. Who uses it anyways?
Only you Canadians, you French Canadians.
Hey, be careful. I have Canadian friends here. And when we're in large groups, you never know what'll happen.
That's true. It's like a flash mob, but much more polite.
That's the best way of putting that possible.
Yeah, pretty much. All right. So any additional thoughts on yours? I think I pretty much.
As it warms up a little bit, it's getting more of a spiced, like peppery kind of feeling to it. It's very light-bodied. It's refreshing. Like it just hits you quick and just washes down. It doesn't linger at all. It's just got a nice. The bitterness is actually growing on me quite a bit. But it's just kind of light and refreshing and bitter. Now that there's just not a whole heck of a lot to it, honestly. Like just it's very drinkable.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know if I've ever had anything from Elysian. I probably have. I'd be willing to bet I probably sought out some of their beers while I was visiting Seattle the one time, and I'm not sure if they have a big distribution over this way, but it sounds vaguely familiar, so they might have.
They're pretty big out here, but I don't think their distribution gets that far,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
If it did, then you'd have to try the Dayglow, because that's their premier bottle right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's their brand new IPA, which is quite delicious, which I think you saw in my Untapped the other day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did. Yeah, we've been doing some pretty good on tap stuff lately.
Yeah,
Seems like.
definitely. Both actually keeping it up to date for the most part. Can't put everything on there. I think the most interesting thing I've seen recently, which sounds really sad, but you're aware of Rainier out here, right?
Yeah.
It's like the PBR of Seattle. Yeah.
Yes.
They have Rainier Ale I recently found.
Nice.
And it comes in a slightly different bottle that's green. And actually it tastes slightly better than, but I can't figure out why it is. I just found this the first time at the market down the street. I was very confused.
So you had to at least try it.
I did. It wasn't bad. It is what it is for Rainier.
Yeah, it's beer. It's probably a weird cream lager.
So what did you have in Grand Rapids? So I know that you hit
Well, yeah, let's.
Grand Rapids on Saturday, and plenty
Yeah,
of beer there is to be had. I saw your flights, so.
Yeah, we definitely. That's one of my things I want to talk to after we rate the beers. But we had a great day in Grand Rapids yesterday. I mean, it was probably one of the better visits we've had. I mean, picture perfect weather. We were 80 degrees, full sun, very nice. But yeah, that's one of the. I got a couple things I want to talk to after we rate the beers here. Talk about rather, and then And among those is the new brewery we tried yesterday. So I want to
Oh,
give some
elk.
information on that. Yeah, elk. So all right, let's take one more swig and get our ratings out there. Well, this is not my favorite cider or mead from these guys. It's a nice change of pace. The spices you're either going to really dig that or you're not. And there have been many beers out there that use, and I've actually brewed beers around Christmas time using cardamom specifically because I like that little spicy bite. It kind of has a Christmassy orange kind of thing going on. And then, I think it's good in modicum. I could see taking like a little shot of this, but it really is a dessert kind of cider. It's really on the sweet side, a little thicker. I mean, even though it clocks in only at 5.5, it's still, you just really have to dig that tea and chai kind of thing, and I don't seek that out. I just don't. It's too sweet for my taste. I always tend to veer towards the bitter, the IPAs, the DIPAs, and if DIPAs, tend to be a little alcoholic or sweet, I just don't like them as much. So, um, having said that, I mean, this is no woodchuck. This is way better than woodchuck or any other mass-produced cider, but it's no Vandermills. So, I would put Vandermills above this for sure in the classification of ciders. So it's fine. I probably won't ever seek out again. It is on tap. I noticed that someone in Kalamazoo had it at the beer exchange. That they had this actually on tap, and I'd be curious to try that to see if it has any more lively characteristics. Because my first mouthful was like you could sort of taste the living uh, presence of the alcohol and the carbonation and all that stuff. It just tasted alive for like a brief second, and then everything else just sort of died, and then it was it was just sweet. So, having said all that, I'm gonna have to give this a 6 out of 10. It's just not my favorite cider of all time. It's still solid, and it's an interesting experiment. But yeah, I'm happy to have done it, but that'll be the end of it. So.
Well, I'll keep that in mind when I'm in Michigan next time, which will be a little while now. But beside the point. Okay, so I had Loser by Elysian, which I'm generally a fan of their beer. Everything they make is pretty solid, generally not over the top, which is what I would say about this pale ale. It's actually is coming off a lot like a peppercorn ale. It's a bit spicy. It's very peppery,
Mm-hmm.
but it's very refreshing. It's just very light. It's in and out, done. And I could see drinking a couple of these over the course of an afternoon, like when you're really warm, really hot, and just getting that nice bitey, carbonated kind of, like you go for soda after a hot day, just that carbonation feel that really makes it refreshing. But outside of that, I'm not. I think it's just a very solid, um, not plain, but just a very solid representation. Like it's not one way or the other. So I'm going to go with a 7, I think.
7.
7.
You wavered, yes.
Go scene from Miranda, Melissa, Amber. That just happened. All right. So.
All right, 7 out of 10 for Loser and 6 out of 10 for the Dude's Rug. And yeah, that seems to be, they can't all be winners, right? But we'll give them a little trophy or certificate for participation. Yeah,
Indeed, and just remember to always love yourself. You're beautiful.
frequently.
Frequently.
All right, well, that's going to do it for the beer portion of our show, or cider portion of the show, as the case may be. tune in next time if you want to stick around this time. We'll talk a little bit about movies and a couple other beer-related things that I've got on my list here. But in the meantime, we'll probably see hopefully next Sunday because we have the Summer Beer Festival is next weekend, and
I think I can do
I'll be in Detroit on Saturday for that, Friday and Saturday. I'll be back in town on Sunday, but I'm thinking, depending on how it hits, I might. We did the Chromebook thing once. I might wait until I get home to do that. So maybe about the same time as today, next Sunday if you're up for it. So
that. I think it should be good. And don't forget to like us, subscribe,
should I subscribe?
subscribe, and Untapped, and
And we actually have a question here from Boris
the bottle
Castillo.
from May. This is the bottle from May, yes. And it's 7%.
How about the IBUs? Does it stay on there anywhere?
It does not say on here.
Oh. So no IBUs, Boris. Sorry. Boris Stewart. Yeah, I'm not sure what's SRM. I don't even know what that is.
I'm not aware as well.
SRM. Oh, that is that the standard reference method. Oh, it's for color. Boy, that's a great question. I mean, I don't think they ever specify what an SRM is. Not that I've ever seen. I guess you could, sort of peg it on the chart, manually. I guess you could probably even have the chart and sort of match it up. But I don't. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure how helpful that is. But anyways, that's that. If I do, yeah, no problem, Boris. You're welcome.
Thank you for asking.
Yep, thank you. Okay, so let's talk a little bit since we're all set on the beer portion. Let's talk a little bit about brewing. So yesterday, well, actually Thursday, I went to Pawpaw Brewing Company in Pawpaw, and I got to try. I've had some of their stuff in bottles, and I've been more or less unimpressed. I mean, they're okay, but nothing has ever really blown my socks off. So got a chance to stop in there on Thursday and check them out in their tap room. And as we all know, tap rooms usually have a lot more selection than what you could find even on draft in regular bars or on the shelves sometimes because the distribution method's quite different. And so I got to try. They had a nice Belgian Vit. They had a Belgian IPA that was actually a homebrew collaboration from a local homebrewer. And that was actually pretty decent. A lot of them were, I basically got the IPA, the dip. They had a Citra. Yeah, they had a Citra Pale Ale that was, or Citra Melon. They used some melon in it, and I kind of like that. That was kind of a little bit of fun. For the most part, I would peg those guys at like a sort of a mid-level brewer, but maybe on the edging on the upper side slightly, because I was rather impressed that they had so many different beers. They had about 15, I think, on tap. So that was I enjoyed the stopping over there. The brew room is very tiny. It's a very small building, so it was, kind of awkward. There's like a couple of little houses or a couple of rooms. It's a like your typical roadhouse, but just very small, and no Patrick Swayze.
Well, if there's no Patrick Swayze,
there wasn't even any meatloaf on the menu. I mean, if you get a roadhouse, you gotta have meatloaf. So.
Kind of reminds me of the little awkward brewery that's here in Seattle. It's the Fremont Brewing Company, or not Fremont Brewing Company. It's in Fremont. Trying to remember the name of the brewery, but it's actually built inside of an old house. So there's probably 5 or 6 small rooms with 2 or 3 tables each.
Yeah.
And then, like where the living room is, it's actually the bar serving area.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of makes it a really interesting place, but like the older houses, when you have parties or whatever at an older house, you're kind of like walking in between people and trying to, yeah.
Well, plus it doesn't, when you walk into those places, you immediately know, like, well, they're not super successful. They're just getting going. You
Probably.
walk into some place like Elk Brewing, on the other hand, which is straight out of the gate, and they have a beautiful space. I mean, it's just all stainless steel and wood, and some reclaimed wood on the walls, and you know, just really fresh and clean and impressive, and it sort of exudes success, even though they're brand new. And I will say that their beers are not as good as Papa Brewing Company. Um, so there is that dichotomy going on, and I guess there's something to be said for places that are a bit on the smaller side but feel more homey and
Right.
more
Well, just think
comfortable.
Brewery Vivant isn't exactly a big space, and in fact is a small space, and even more so has so many tables and so many chairs and so many of those big community tables. There's not a lot of room to move around in there, but I mean, well, their beer is definitely more
Yeah,
than any reason to go there, but the space itself is just very cozy, very homey. Like it just feels very. I've always loved being in Brewery Vivant. Like it's just
yeah.
one of those. It's tight and cramped, but it's actually a really decent place.
Well, like I said, we went there yesterday for lunch, and they've made some improvements to the outdoor space.
Oh,
So
nice.
if you'll recall, you go out that door, right? It's just past the men's room, essentially, and you go out that door to the patio, what used to be like just a big open space, more or less, and then a cornhole thing, right? There was that
Yep.
big long corridor that was a cornhole. Well, what they did was they built a little sort of alcove, if you will, um, in that space where there used to be uh, picnic tables to the left. If you were out the door, and there was picnic tables to the left, and then patio tables to the right, if you recall, which goes out towards the front. They so they took that where the picnic tables were. They built a permanent structure over that, all the way out to the front, and they put a secondary bar out there.
Oh,
And it's
nice.
basically a walk up. You
Very nice.
walk up and get pour, and they have the whole tap system and everything. Really cool. And then where the cornhole was, if you recall, they got rid of the cornhole and anything else out there, and they built a permanent structure that is these beams going up, and then a permanent um, sort of not smoke glass, but opaque glass um, patio roof. So it's protected from the sunlight, but you're still getting light because it's coming through the opaque glass.
Right.
And they put in the more trestle tables there, sort of picnic table-y type things. Maybe just moved them, and then they put in some taller four tops tables. So they're going to be able to serve out there basically, and they put in heat lamps, a one huge heat lamp on the patio
Very cool.
ceiling, and fans. So whether it's hot or cold, they've got you covered. So they're going to be able to use that outdoor space for pretty much anything. I mean, you can sit out there when it's raining. You could probably sit out there when it's snowing, but maybe if there's not a whole lot of snow. But
Well,
it's
some
really unique.
some of the interesting development in the last couple of years of patio spaces at not just breweries, but at bars or pubs or um, just to have outdoor eating. Um, yeah, when I first moved here, that was one of the first things I noticed. Is a lot of the patios have those heat lamps, so you can spend 3/4 of the year here outside and still be able to drink and eat. And they remind me a lot of when I finally came back to Michigan. In Grand Rapids Brewing Company had opened, or sorry, the new founders
Founders,
had
yeah.
opened up that space, and now they have the big fire and the heat lamps, and you can stay out there even in Michigan during
Yeah.
Michigan weather. You can still go outside with beer and actually.
Yeah, I'll be real curious though, because that's what I thought of Founders too. Here they spent how many ever was it $1 million just to build the beer garden part,
Yeah, there's a.
um, but they did not put a roof of any sort on that outdoor space. So I thought that was a little unusual that they wouldn't have gone that extra mile to really make it a, because if it's raining, you're not going to be out there.
Right.
And if it's snowing heavily, they're going to have to move that snow in a big way. Maybe they're waiting until the fall to put it on. I don't know, but
It could
it
be.
it is sort of like a almost a two-season beer garden. Um,
Well, I will say in Seattle, we tend to, I mean, those heat lamps are out there when you're sitting out there in the rain. Like, that's just something we do out here. Like, a lot of times,
well, you
I think
can't. Yeah.
it was last summer when it was raining, you just sit out there with your beer and either cover it up with a coaster or just let it go. But, the heat lamps are on, and it drizzles so much out here that it's not so much that you're getting soaked, it's just that you're getting just a little bit damp. So those heat
Moist?
lamps help quite a bit.
Are you getting moist?
I am getting moist. The
Moist.
night, in fact, was moist.
The night was sultry.
It was sultry.
Sultry. Moist.
I'm writing this as a black basketball player from the 70s that just went through a sex change.
Oh God. So have you seen this Stone Brewing Company's Indiegogo campaign?
Mm-mm.
So I'm obviously I'm a huge lover of Stone Brewing Company, and
So,
so I follow them on all the social media, and I have signed up for their newsletter alerts, which are great. So I get all the blog posts and everything. Well, I got an email on the 16th. I think it was the 16th. No, probably the 18th, and it basically said. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Pacific, we will announce a very secret campaign, blah, blah, blah. And that's all they would say. That will change the face of, all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, awesome. This is good. They're going to announce their East Coast distribution system now, or because they're going to open up a brewery in the East Coast somewhere, but
oh, nice.
they haven't announced it yet. So I'm like all pumped. I'm like waiting for it. Or there's
This
going
would
to be
be a
like,
mission. It's
yeah, why
coming.
not? Why not?
It's in Grand Rapids.
That'd be sweet. Oh my
Of
God.
course, then you would have to move back to Grand Rapids.
Maybe it'll be St. John. No. So I was all excited and everything. Well, 10 a.m. came and went, and I was like, well, where's the announcement? And it wasn't until I had to actually dig through some social media posts and everything, and to find out what was going on, and then I got an email that didn't appear till like 4 o'clock or something. I was all pissed off. But anyways, the gist of it is. They still have not selected their East Coast brewery site, but they have formed an Indiegogo campaign to raise $1 million to help fund Stone Brewing Berlin. So they found this old, I guess it was a hangar, like an airplane hangar, in the heart of Berlin that they've had their eye on since, I guess, 2009. And they're finally ready to move ahead with it. They want to do it, but they're basically giving everybody who funds the Indiegogo campaign, in addition to all the regular perks and everything, an opportunity to help, build this a little quicker than they ordinarily would, because they're going to do it no matter what. But it's sort of, and they're, in addition to the funding perks, you get perks just like in Kickstarter, Indiegogo, which are, a T-shirt, a glass, whatever,
Right.
or $50,000. Look at you, they'll suck your dick. But but they in addition to that, anybody who contributes to the campaign also has the opportunity to purchase these special collaboration beers, which are going to be in the large format. I think they're the 1.5 liter bottles, and so that's basically it. That's their whole spiel. It's like they want $1 million so they can open up Stone Berlin, and I'm ambivalent about it. I don't know what to feel, because number one, I like Stone beer and I want to see them succeed. Berlin is actually a cool site. I mean, I think that sort of makes sense in the sort of scheme of beer making. I mean,
The
yeah,
world with beer. Yeah.
yeah.
It makes sense.
But to raise the money via Indiegogo, I've never had a problem with like celebrities or anybody raising money in Kickstarter or anything like that. I've never had a problem with that until now. And I'm not sure why I feel that way, but it just feels sort of disrespectful, or
I feel like if
or
they're going
wrong
to
in
be,
some fashion. I don't.
I feel like most of the people, since they're already an American brewery, if they're raising funds from Indiegogo, which is probably worldwide, you should be able to contribute from multiple countries, I'd assume.
I think so. I think so.
But
Yeah.
either way, if you're asking for money from most of your patrons, who most likely are going to be in the U.S., I feel like that should be towards opening up a new brewery in the U.S. so more people can access your brewery versus going overseas and giving them the joy of your beer. Like, that's great, but how about the people that are actually putting in the money and the time and the research into your brewery? Give them something back by allowing them to actually come to your brewery without having to travel 3,000 miles across the country.
Yeah, and that's exactly what my knee-jerk initial reaction was. I was like, why the hell should I care?
They don't need beer over there. They've got Budweiser.
Screw those guys.
They don't know what good beer is.
Yeah, that actually came up because I watched all of the videos that were related to the Indiegogo campaign, and Greg, one of the co-founders, he actually, I guess they were talking about it, and it was Sam from Dogfish Head in a video conference call, was basically saying, like, do you think Germans and Europeans will, accept, or Germans in particular, will accept stone beer because stone beer tends to think outside the box, and Germany is the home of the purity laws, where you can only use these certain ingredients and that's it.
Maybe that's part of their plan, is to use those ingredients and to make them a huge success over there, being Stone, that produces the beer that comes from the regulated system.
Nope. They're not gonna. I mean, they've come out.
The brewery in the U.S. Screw everyone else.
They've come right out and said, like, no, we're going to continue to brew the beers that we brew, and I guess the Germans are just going to have to get used to it.
Yeah, because that works so well.
I know. I'm like, so part of it feels like that it's tilting at windmills kind of thing. It's like, are you really going to try to fight this fight? And here we got a question or comment from Matthew Miller. I heard Stone is only making lagers in Berlin. That's not going to be the case, Matt. I think it's going to be a full production. I think they really want to get their full production. And if you watch the videos that are associated with the Indiegogo campaign, Greg pretty much comes out and says, that they're going to kind of do their thing, and that they're going to have to get used. The Berliners are going to have to get used to the experimentation. And I really think I sort of agree with them that Europeans and Germans I'm sure they're ready for that, but it's going to take a change of mindset, and Stone has sort of been that sort of rebel for quite some time, so I guess we'll have to wait and see. I think they're going to make that $1 million easily, but they have also, I think, a $2.5 million mark and a $5 million mark. So all these sort of $1 million is the bare minimum, but we'll see what happens. I don't know.
Well,
but I hope that when they open up their East Coast distribution, it's close to me.
Well, of course.
Nearby.
Well, it'd be silly not to put it between New York, Chicago, Grand Rapids.
Yeah. I mean, Chicago would be good, but I don't think it's going to happen because of Lagunitas opening up there.
Yeah, that would probably be.
Yeah. Unless there's some benefits to be gained from that, if they collaborated in some fashion, because Lagunitas isn't that far away from Stone. And brewers all get along anyways, for the most part, until they're suing each other. But, yeah, well, we'll see what happens with that. So, and the other thing I wanted to mention, you mentioned earlier, Jay, that we were talking about Wrong.
Wrong. Yep. By who's the director?
Quentin Depew, is that his name? Depew.
Who also did Rubber.
Yep. Well, I wanted to see if you had seen Wrong Cops yet.
Wrong Cops?
Yeah. It's on Netflix, and it's essentially taking that one cop that's in Wrong
Right.
and building a whole movie around
Same
him
director.
and other same director.
When the hell did that come out?
It it's been out for at least 6 months, and
Seriously.
it came on Netflix probably about 2 3 months ago,
Oh wow.
and it was sort of like this. He called it an experiment because he said he loved that character so much
Well,
in
definitely.
Wrong, the big fat cop, who was just
Yeah.
so he loved that actor and that cop so much that character that he essentially wrote a whole movie with more of those cops and sort of made it like almost little short stories that are
Okay.
interconnected, and it sort of forms a movie. And I have to say, he shot it cheaply and quickly, and it's it hangs together about the same way that Wrong did. So it's not as great as Rubber, but it's still dang good. And there's a lot of laughs and bizarre things. And
No reason. There's just no
no,
reason.
no reason.
No reason.
Why is the alien in E.T. Brown? No reason.
Why don't you make a movie about a cop and a movie that nobody saw? No reason.
Well, I think it takes a certain mindset to appreciate those movies. That's for sure.
Definitely. How'd you like the stylistic choice of End of Tomorrow to be shot completely in black and white?
Edge of Tomorrow. Yeah, it's
Is it Edge
I
of Tomorrow or End of
I liked it
Tomorrow?
a lot. It had sort of a noirish feel to it,
Right, because a
and
lot of
sort
it was very heavily contrasted too.
and it sort of it counters the perception and reality that Disney World is so vibrant and full of
Right.
way too much color and Technicolor and all that stuff. It also gave it a kind of Wizard of Oz feel.
I can definitely see that. Kind of like the he's fallen down the black hole into Disney World, and this is what it's really like. Like,
Yeah, super creepy, like just creepy on all kinds of levels. I mean, it's like I don't even I have no clue how they got this thing made, and it's as bizarre as you think it's going to be. It goes off the rails big time.
one of the big thing for me about and it's Edge of Tomorrow. I'm sorry, right?
Hmm.
Edge of Tomorrow, which is the movie we're talking about. Um, the big thing for me was having been to Disney so many times when I was little. When I was 5, when I was I think 8 or 9, I think I went 4 or 5 times probably before I was 15. We went there pretty frequently, but knowing all of those old rides like the Epcot Center and having been there for Buzz Lightyear ride, which is one of the big points in the movie.
Hmm.
Um, having been there for all of that, anybody who has watched The Edge of Tomorrow that was through those glory years of Disney World, you just kind of cringe at everything because part of you wants to just fall in love with it because you remember everything kind of in black and white, right?
Hmm.
Like it was great and
Nostalgic.
yeah, exactly. So you have this nostalgia, but then on the other end, you have all the demon or all the characters making squinty eyes like they're demons and everything, and he's just kind of flipping out, and you're like, now that I look at it from this angle, it almost makes you feel like your memories are somehow skewed. Like this was actually going on. Like they did a great job of twisting nostalgia and making it you feel like you have to actually question like what you actually saw versus what's going on there,
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's
which is a lot of fun for me.
taken at face value. Disney World can be very sort of comforting, or like it's clearly hiding something, and that's like the one aspect of it that sort of like everything is way too good to be true. That's like the sort of underlying, I think, thought from most people who have visited there, and you always sort of wonder like this because there's this perfect veneer of a fantasy that's going on, and yet if you look really closely, you can see the guy who's sweeping up, and and that person maybe has a physical defect, or there's like just all these sort of like
Well,
things aren't quite right.
and the talk about the princesses in the movie, I feel like is the prime example of what makes that place so creepy. As you watch that movie as an adult, after you've been there as a child or a young adult, and you realize, yeah, these people have to. I mean, they have to act happy for what 14 hours a day, every single day. It's like, how is this person this? It's kind of like even in Beverly Hills Cop, what, 3? When he goes in the back room and all the mascots are sitting there drinking a beer. It's like, well, this is how that's how I always saw them, is these people that they go out there and they smile and laugh and have a good time and they get off stage and they're just like, God, what am I doing with my life? Like, but this
Reality.
movie brings that aspect out. Like, it shows you all those areas where Disney or any other theme park for that matter, you spend half of your day in line with screaming babies and you're hungry and you're out in the blazing sun all for, 3 minutes of a ride. Like a roller coaster lasts what, like a minute 20? Like,
Hmm. Yeah,
when you think of how much money goes into. That's the one thing I'm surprised they didn't bring up, was how much everything costs in the movie.
that's true. That would have been an easy target, wouldn't it?
You'd
But
think so,
but maybe it
because he
lends
makes
to the
every
timeless
purchase
aspect.
throughout. Sorry,
Yeah, I said maybe that lends to the timeless aspect if he's not,
it could be.
a $20 hot dog.
Yeah, I just feel like they could have snuck that in somewhere, because he obviously buys like they go for the really silly trinket that he buys for his wife.
Hmm.
And they buy some food and stuff, but it would have been one of those easy juts, just like when you're going to a baseball game. Like, you can't get away with it's $9 for a Budweiser that's this tall. Like, same thing at or
But
at
it's
a.
also worth it.
It is true.
Well, I do remember
Yeah, sports.
when my boss and I went to Epcot Center for well, we were down there for a conference, and we had some downtime, so we were like, well, let's go to Epcot Center and just kick around for the night. And outside of the German, because it's a big circle arranged in the shape of the world, and all these countries are around. And so we went to Germany because they have beer. Go figure, and actually pretty decent beer. And outside was a beer cart that had like one of like a pretty hard to get beer at the time. It was in a beer cart. And
Nice.
I'm like, yes, I'm going to Disney and get this German beer that you can't really get at the time. You couldn't really easily get it anyplace. So, and here it was being poured fresh out of a keg. So it was pretty cool. Like, yes, Disney rules. Yeah, woo.
Best place ever.
Yeah. And then
There's nothing.
we went to the English pub part, which is towards the latter end of the circle, and got a seat out on the deck for the fireworks, and the fireworks would explode, and there was a bit of a wind, so then the ash would drift onto us. Another creep factor.
A little bit. I mean, there's probably an engineered airspace now that just kind of sucks it all back in or pushes it out. Like,
No, that was just a couple years ago that happened. That was when John and I
oh, okay.
from Grabber we went for the RFID conference, and we said so it wasn't it was maybe 6 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that. So still good memories.
Okay, so what else has been on my Netflix queue? I watched Black Rock on a whim the other day.
Yeah, I saw your
Did you
rating on
check that
that.
out yet?
I have not checked that out. I've seen it blip up a couple times, and I just have not gotten after it. And I don't know. It doesn't really appeal to me that much. I mean, if I want to see that sort of movie, there needs to be more of a supernatural aspect, I guess.
Right, which is what I always go for as well.
Yeah. So I wasn't. I've seen it, but I'm just not into it that
Well,
much.
no kind of movie, anyways. Survival film
Hmm.
kind of thing.
Have you
Um,
ever seen the uh, Incident at Black Rock? Is that what it's called?
I don't believe so.
It's a Peter Weir film, I believe. And Peter Weir, um, he doesn't do many films, and for the most part, they're very well thought out and they're very interesting movies. I believe he directed The Truman Show.
Okay.
He also directed one of my favorite movies of all time. Oh, he also did Master and Commander with Russell Crowe.
Which I
Remember
love.
that one? Which is a great movie,
I
and
love that.
and definitely not something I would ever watch like out of choice, but we did,
And that's
and
what
it
I
was
was gonna
awesome.
say too. It's like farthest from what I actually honestly care about in any kind of movie, but somehow it draws me in every time. Like, it's just a very solid, thought out, like graphically or like aesthetically pleasing.
Mhm.
Everything about it just screams out like you need to devour this film. Like, you need to really look at every piece that they put together that makes sense. Like,
Yep.
I would say, with the exception of a slight overacting by Russell Crowe.
Well, but I think in that scenario that was actually fine. I liked it actually. If you played it a little more straight, I wouldn't have dug it that much. But I did
Well,
like
he's
the
the epic
change.
hero of the film, so it
Oh
makes
yeah.
sense that he would stand out and be that big,
Yeah.
brooding, tough captain of the ship. Just
Well, Peter Weir is Australian, I believe. He's an Australian dude. Great director, obviously. And one of my favorite movies that he's directed that I've seen several times is The Last Wave. If you've never seen that with
that's from that.
Richard Chamberlain, it's circa 1970 something. I think maybe early 80s, but I think it's late 70s. And it's good because it has a supernatural bent to it, and it's um, pretty suspenseful, and it doesn't end well. So
Our favorite kind of films.
yes, our favorite kind of film. So you should definitely put The Last Wave on
I
your.
feel like that's already in my
List.
queue for some odd reason, but
I
I'll
don't
have to
think it's
watch
on
that.
Netflix. I don't think it is.
Hmm.
I would love it to be because I'd like to see it again. The Last Wave. Let's see, there it is right there. If I could click
So I
that.
checked out the remake of Old Boy,
Yeah, I saw that.
and have you seen it
No,
yet?
no, I've been avoiding it because clearly I love the first film, and I don't
Right.
see and I've heard that it's pretty much a redo. I mean, I've heard the cinematography is nice.
The
Um,
cinematography is gorgeous. It is
yeah.
beautiful. Like, the color choices,
Hmm.
um, every scene is very well thought out. I mean, there's a few things in there that are. He even does some really shaky cam third person stuff, which I enjoy from time to time if done correctly. There's nothing conventional about the way he does his camera work, which, Spike Lee, but
Hmm.
um, it just I think the main deterrent for me was the fact that I had seen the original, so I caught on very quickly. Well, caught on, knew what was coming, which was really sad because since they
Yeah.
followed it to a T,
Yeah.
there was no surprise that you're like, oh, there's the girl. Oh, that's
No
and it
spoilers.
just
No
revealed
spoilers.
everything. Yeah, no spoilers. Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
and I'm with you too. I'm like, okay, well, we know what the twist is, so why am I watching this?
And I will say the fight scenes with Josh Brolin. Wait, James or Josh? It's Josh Brolin.
Josh.
Josh Brolin.
Hmm.
The fight scenes were freaking awesome. I'll give it that.
Well, the fight
I
scenes
actually
in
would
the
have.
original were great too. I mean, the
I know,
hallway
I
scene is
agree.
amazing.
I would say that they're. I mean, clearly, obviously, the whole movie was Americanized, but the
Yeah.
action scenes even more so were put into that very comic feeling fight scene sense, which is a lot of fun. Like, I would have actually liked to have seen those on big screen, but I mean, you could still obviously skip it. I
Hmm.
have just passed it so many times in my queue that I was like, I need to
Yeah,
see what
just
they
get
did
it
with
over
this.
with.
And knowing Josh Brolin too, I was kind of
Yeah,
always been a fan, so it was hard to kind of pass over. I don't think he would ruin the main character, which he didn't really. So
well, I have one question for you, and this is the only question I have.
no,
Does
he
he
didn't.
does he eat a live octopus?
That's no, he didn't. That was
Then
my
I,
answer.
then I don't want to see it.
I know, I know. I waited for it, and there was a scene where he looks at a giant squid on the side of a sushi box,
Uh-huh.
or like inside of a live aquarium in like the sushi joint,
Yeah.
and there's a squid that's attached to the side of it, just stuck there, and he kind of goes and looks at it for a minute, and like, oh, here it comes, yes, Josh Brolin, and then he walks away.
Yeah, it's like the end joke, right? It's like
It was
here's
sad.
a nod to the original. But
He
James,
didn't. He
Josh
didn't
Brolin
put the
is
bees in
more.
his mouth. No.
No. Okay, that's all I need to know.
And then there was what else did I check out recently? Watch. Let's see the Black Rock, Old Boy, End of Tomorrow, or sorry, Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow.
The newest season of Hemlock Grove. I've checked out the first 4, 5
Yeah. I
episodes.
still didn't finish the first one.
Yeah, I'm not sold on the second season either. It's all right. It's just very mediocre. I'm not impressed in any way. It's kind of enough to keep me watching to see kind of where things progress, but outside of
Yeah.
that, it's really
Now they need to find some other marquee horror
yeah.
thing going on. I mean, they could. I don't
We're
know.
into a lot of what's not supernatural, but like grim or
Yeah.
something, where it's just it really actually needs to be. I can't like I feel like that needs to be a TV series and not a Netflix series. Like it,
Mhm.
which was the sad part about the series in general was
Well, I mean, Hemlock Grove has, you know, uh, pretty graphic sex and
just
some sort of squeamish moments here and there. But plot wise, it just doesn't. I don't think it works. Plot wise or character wise, it feels tweeny. It feels Twilighty. I just,
it does.
or it feels like early Stephen King, ABC or CBS series back when he was doing like the Golden Years and things like that, where it's like, really, you're better than this. you
I can
know,
see that.
CBS for Christ's sakes. That's
I love CBS.
yeah. The Last Wave is not on Instant Watch. I don't know if
Live.
it's. Are you an Amazon Prime member still?
I am.
I wonder if it's
Oh,
on there.
I did not put this in my notes. Did you check out the conspiracy?
Oh, that's the one that you gave relatively
Finally,
mediocre.
that's the I did not write that out in my notes here, but the conspiracy I checked out kind of on a whim
Hmm.
yesterday as well. Obviously, Netflix binged all day yesterday, which was I needed to catch up on my queue. It was starting to get ridiculous.
Yeah.
That one was predictable, but it it's almost all worth it for the last 15 minutes of the film.
Okay.
It's just one of those where you see where it's going, and it's like I said, it's predictable. It's not like you're really surprised at what's going on. A lot of stuff you've heard or seen before, but
Hmm.
there's just the climax scene you kind of have to watch it and just that was coming and just let it happen and it's just it's so worth it. It really is.
All right. Well, I'll check it out because I've seen it, and the cover at least looks sort of interesting, with
Which
a
is where
weird
the yeah,
sort of
except for
like
the climax.
satanic kind of thing. But it's no dog man. That's all I'm
It
saying.
is no Dogman, but someday every movie will eventually, hopefully,
We'll aspire to that.
aspire to Dogman level. But until then,
Until then.
until then,
All right, buddy. I think we should wrap this up. Um,
indeed.
Good talking to you as always, and I hope you can go check out that Elysian Brewery. Because have you been there? Uh,
I've been there once or twice. I've
okay,
not
so
been in a long
you
time neither.
yeah,
I'm supposed to hit. I probably already started. I believe A Taste of Seattle is going
oh,
on today,
nice.
and I had some friends that wanted me to hit that up with them.
So is it like just
It's just a million
food and
street vendors and
beer?
local businesses and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think it's free entrance. It's just all these vendors come out and say this is what a restaurant has.
I think you mean Bite of Seattle.
Bite of Seattle, correct?
Bite of Seattle. The Northwest's premier food festival.
Yep, I think that's this weekend.
Today's the last day. Yep.
Yep.
And it goes until 8 o'clock. So
What's the? Yeah, I've not gotten a text from my friends, so I'm assuming my phone's blowing up right now. But
check out the 2014 event map.
ooh,
Boom, there it is. So yeah, that looks pretty sweet. It looks like it's being sponsored by Groupon.
hmm.
That's weird.
Well, as long as they have some Greek restaurants, I'm feeling Greek today.
Yeah, I don't. Well, I mean, it looks like they've got a lot of good stuff here, like Ben and Jerry's.
Ben and Jerry's is gonna be there.
Yeah.
Oh my God, OMG,
Oh, they have a bunch of
LOL,
they have a bunch
ROFL.
of food trucks too. Hit all the food trucks.
Well, food trucks, yeah. I noticed the other day there's a bunch downtown. Um,
There's a
there's
Filipino
a
one.
there's an event going down in Ballard, which is where I live, last weekend, and they had like 15 food trucks that I really
Nice.
wanted to hit. But
This is right down by Memorial Stadium, I guess.
so Seattle Center.
Skate park, Bagley Wright Theater,
Yep,
Children's Theater, right in that pavilion, the Fisher Pavilion.
yep.
Sweet. Well, looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I might hit that today. We'll see.
Cool. Well, I look forward to all your Google Plus photos.
Yeah, I need to get back into that thing, which I've been doing. I posted all those
Just
yesterday.
turn
So,
on auto upload and you're good to go.
well, I do, but I just forget to actually tell them to actually like post them
We'll get after it.
because some of them are pictures of me,
Doing things with corn dogs.
not corn dogs.
Those aren't corn dogs.
Those aren't corn dogs. Not the bees.
All right. On that note,
On that note,
adios. Have a good night.
adios, viewers.
Till next
Arrivederci.
Sunday.
Go ahead.
Arrivederci.
Sex with a Teen.